Jai Gurudev. So hopefully everybody is up to speed. At least after taking the exam, you're up to speed. Yeah. So do you want to start with page 250 directly, or do you have any questions about the exam? Everybody's all set? Yeah. Chalo. So let's start with page 250. Very important page. Who's going to read?
I can start.
Okay.
Vasistha continued, I lived in the abode of Lord Shiva, known as Kailasa, for some time, worshipping Lord Shiva and practicing austerities. One day I saw a great light in the forest. With my insight, I inquired into its nature. I saw that it was Lord Shiva himself. I saluted the Lord and asked him, Lord, what is the method of worshipping the Lord which destroys all sins and promotes all auspiciousness? The Lord said, do you know who God is? God is not Vishnu or Shiva or Brahma, not the wind, the sun, or the moon, not the Brahmana or the king, nor I, nor you, not Lakshmi, nor the mind, intellect. God is without form and undivided, not in the objects. That splendor, Devanam, which is not made and which has neither beginning nor end, is known as God, Deva, or Lord Shiva, which is pure consciousness. That alone is fit to be worshipped, and that alone is all. If one is unable to worship this Shiva, then he is encouraged to worship the form. The latter yields finite results, but the former bestows infinite bliss. He who ignores the infinite and is devoted to the finite abandons the pleasure garden and seeks the thorny bush. However, sages sometimes worship a form playfully.
Okay. So the main question here is, what is the correct method of worshipping the Lord? Yeah. And Vasistha is very direct. Again, the main question here is how to worship the Lord. Yeah, lot of us are confused about this, especially after learning about the Brahman consciousness, and you have been worshipping idols for so many years. So this is a quandary that happens to many devotees on the path. Who do I worship? How do I worship? I was doing puja for so many years. Do I continue that? How do I continue? Yeah. So Vasistha is very direct. Yeah. Vasistha does not really believe in being politically right or using diplomacy or conveying something so that it does not hurt you. He does not believe in all these so-called formalities. He is very direct in his approach. Yeah. So what does he say? Let's go to the second paragraph. The first is just story. He says, do you know who God is? God is not Vishnu or Shiva or Brahma, not the wind, the sun or the moon, not the Brahmana or the king, nor I, nor you, not Lakshmi, nor the mind or intellect. Why did he give all these? Because some believe in Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma. Yeah, there are some who belong to the Mayan culture or the tribal kind of culture who believe in the sun, stars, wind, moon as God. So he took into consideration those people also. Some believe the Brahman is God, or some believe the king is God. Yeah. So he's saying no, not all these. Even people who believe in the mind or intellect being God. These are the scientific people. They have no faith in any other God other than the mind or the intellect. Yeah. So he's taken into consideration everybody. He's not left anybody out here. Yeah. He says all these are not God. Why? God is without form. That is the main shloka on this page. And undivided, not in the objects. That splendor, which is also called Devanam, which is not made and which has neither beginning nor end, is known as God or Deva or Lord Shiva, which is pure consciousness. So here Lord Shiva is not the idol Lord Shiva, but this consciousness has been given the name Shiva. So he's talking about that. Yeah, he's saying God is without form. He is not in your idols. That alone is fit to be worshipped, and that alone is all. Yes? So all you need to worship is that consciousness, that all-pervading Brahman consciousness. So what to do from today? What do I do with all Rama, Krishna, some Devis, Devtas, all those sitting on the mantelpiece? What to do with them now? What to do? You don't have to force this on yourself. Along your path, along your spiritual journey, a natural growing up, a natural maturity might happen. I say might. Yeah. So wait for that. Let it take its time. You don't have to today only go and just clean up your mantelpiece. It will not work like that. Yeah? Because inside there will be this kind of a guilt. Oh, I was doing this Diwali puja, or I was doing this Dasera puja, or whatever puja you do. Yeah? And how can I stop this? And then people from India calling you, did you do this puja? And then you start feeling guilty on Diwali. Oh, I didn't do the Diwali puja. You cannot live with that kind of dvandva. Then you are not really worshipping the consciousness. You see what I'm saying? You cannot impose this on yourself. It has to be a natural thing, a natural dispassion towards those idols. If it comes, it comes. Very clear? Yes? I am not propagating that you should stop doing puja at all. I am saying if it happens naturally in its time, it's good. Yeah? If it doesn't happen, you wait for it. You do not impose it on yourself. Clear? Yes, Auntie.
Guruji said, still, even though you are in the path, on the path, and doing meditation and have an intellectual and a little bit of understanding of what Shiva is, still you should not stop doing a little puja in the house.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Because it purifies the atmosphere,
yes,
and gives good vibrations in the house. And so that is, with that thing, people, children will know.
correct.
And because slowly they also come to a level, because that's the introduction to children.
Yes,
There
yes,
is somebody higher up and some force is there.
yes, Auntie.
You don't have to tell them, but they know.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
Correct, correct. That's what I'm saying. Just by reading this, don't start imposing this on yourself. Yes, Venkat.
See, this what you said is really contradictory. All these days we were reading, believing, or like even Yoga Vasistha, from beginning we are the pure consciousness. In every object we have that pure consciousness. Now here is in objects, pure consciousness is undivided. I feel like it's contradictory.
Truth is contradictory. Yeah, what he's trying to say is that there are devas. Okay, he'll tell you in the next paragraph, I'll tell you now only. If you are worshipping the finite, you will get finite results. If you are worshipping the infinite, you will get the infinite results. Infinite bliss is the only infinite result, really. Yeah. If you worship small idols and think this is God, and you pray for, oh, give me whatever, a good job, give me so much money, you pray to Lakshmi, and then you pray to Saraswati, make me a scholar, or whatever. You pray to these finite beings, you are praying to the middle level. Do you remember we have done all the devas? Yeah, 33 koti, 330 million devas. Yeah, they are energies, and these energies can bestow you with whatever you want. Basically, I create karma by my own desires. What determines my future is really my own desires. That's how future generation happens. Yes, by my own desires. So whatever you want will come to you. But it is the lower level of wisdom and lower level of understanding. It is there, theek hai. Slowly you will mature to a higher level. Yeah? You cannot impose this on yourself. But understand this, that if you just worship these little objects, they only have the energy of the consciousness. They are not pure consciousness itself. And when you are worshipping the little objects, you are asking for finite things. Yeah? Give me a child, give me money, give me wife, give me husband. What Kadva Chauth Vrat and that Vrat you do, I will pray so many Mondays, then you give me this thing. Yeah, this is all you are praying to that middle level of devas. You are not raising your consciousness or awareness to the highest loka. You remember the lokas, right? Yeah. So above the human lokas is this deva loka. Your awareness is stuck in the middle if you are praying to the finite objects. If you raise your awareness to the highest, then why will you even look at the small things? Yeah. So consciousness is in everything. It's not that it's not there. But if you focus on the little, you will get little. If you focus on the infinite, you will get infinite. Simple. Got it? The next paragraph is what I just explained to you. If one is unable to worship the Shiva, then he is encouraged to worship the form. Means what? If the understanding is still not there of that highest consciousness, yeah, theek hai. Then if you don't understand the consciousness, you don't understand Brahman, it's too abstract for you. Okay, you worship Lord Krishna, you worship this Lakshmi Devi, or some or the other idol. At least worship something. Somewhere at least your head should bow down. That I should, drop down somewhere. Somewhere that humility should arise in you. Yes? If that consciousness is very abstract for you, you start here, he says. The latter yields finite results. Latter means the one with the form, the idol. You'll only get finite results. Means you will get money, name, fame, house, wife, husband, children. These are all finite results. Okay? But the former bestows infinite bliss. Former means Brahman consciousness. When you worship Brahman consciousness, you get infinite bliss. He who ignores the infinite and is devoted to the finite abandons a pleasure garden and seeks the thorny bush. Vasistha is very clear, very direct, and he just picks up that chalk and hits you on the nose. Yeah? He's saying if you're still stuck in idols, then you're holding on to thorns. If you can raise your awareness to the Brahman consciousness and only worship the highest, the Brahman consciousness, then you are going into a pleasure garden. Yeah. And then the last sentence is a disclaimer. However, sages sometimes worship a form playfully. Yes, they know it's all Brahman consciousness. Gurudev knows. But still on Mondays he does that Rudra Puja. Why? Because all normal lay people come to a sage. Yes, a sage has reached there, but the people have not reached there. Na? So it is the duty of the sage to give a stepping stone to a beginner to at least come to that consciousness. If that consciousness is so abstract for a beginner, he needs some support, yeah, a little stepping stone. So that's what a guru or a sage does. Playfully worships that form in front of that beginner so that the beginner at least starts having some shraddha, some faith, some love, some devotion. And then slowly that devotion starts growing so much on the path that he drops this stepping stone and he steps higher.
You've talked before about the power of mantras as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that must also help with, helping people, I guess, assimilate their thoughts or
yes,
get more focused, right? As part of the puja.
Absolutely.
That may be more powerful than the act of the worship itself.
Absolutely. That is why in worship, mantras are there, shlokas are there. In the proper Vedic tradition of puja, there are all mantras. So there are certain mantras that invoke only that Deva Loka and then can, just connect you to that Deva Loka, the energies at the Deva Loka level. But the highest is Om, which actually connects you to the consciousness. Yeah.
What about worshipping the enlightened persons like Lord Buddha or Guruji or...
Again, you're again stuck to form, no? The awareness gets stuck to the form. It's okay, you start there, but realize the meaning of that enlightenment. Yeah, if that person like Lord Buddha or Gurudev have achieved or attained enlightenment, because I cannot understand enlightenment, I start with a form. Slowly, it becomes very clear to me what is enlightenment. And I move towards that Brahman consciousness with which Gurudev has united already. And recognize, oh, that Brahman consciousness is in me also. That connection needs to happen at that Brahman consciousness level. If you're just stuck to the form, then you have not raised your consciousness higher. Got it? There also there are steps. If you're just stuck to the external form, then you get stuck. You have to rise higher and recognize that Brahman consciousness which is inside Gurudev also. There's some kind of feedback. What is that? I can hear a cow.
I was thinking that means worshipping is a method. So by worshipping, sometimes by worshipping the form, you get so advanced that you still achieve that Brahman consciousness. You forget the form and then you get to the Brahman consciousness still by that.
Absolutely. That is Bhakti Yoga. Yeah? Through the path of devotion. You start with a form, but then you're not stuck to the form. You recognize the formlessness in the form. That is the most important part of Bhakti Yoga. Many devotees falter because they get stuck only to the form. They don't go to the next step. They cling on to the form. That's where they falter. But a good yogi, a sincere seeker, recognizes the formlessness and then he drops the form. Dropping the form is important, and uniting with the formlessness is the last step. Okay. Who wants to read ahead?
I can read.
Okay.
And I also have to share something here. So, religiously, the religion we come from, the Jain sect of religion, we don't really do idol worship as a part of the religion. So, growing as a child, going to a temple was never part of our ritual. We had a small temple in the house just so that probably we could understand a little more about the gods. But, we never had a culture or a tradition that somebody went to a temple every day and did that. So, and it is part of that religion. So what I'm trying to say is, even though it's Indian religion, there are sects which do not believe in idol worship.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Now for the articles used in the worship: wisdom, self-control, and the perception of the self in all beings are the foremost among those articles. The self alone is Lord Shiva, who is fit to be worshipped at all times with the flowers of wisdom. Indeed, only the infinite consciousness, Chit Akasha, which alone exists even after the cosmic dissolution, exists even now, utterly devoid of objectivity. All these mountains, the whole world, the firmament, the self, the jiva, or the individuality, and all the elements of which this world is constituted, all these are not but pure consciousness. Before the so-called creation, when only this pure consciousness existed, where were all these heaven, etc., space, akasha, supreme or infinite space, param akasham, absolute space, brahmakasham, creation consciousness are mere words, and they indicate the same truth even as synonyms do. Even as the duality experienced in dream is illusory, the duality implied in the creation of the world is illusory. Even as the objects seem to exist and function in the inner world of consciousness in a dream, objects seem to exist and function in the outer world of consciousness during the wakeful state. Nothing really happens in both these states. Even as consciousness alone is the reality in the dream state, consciousness alone is the substance in the wakeful state too. That is the Lord, that is the supreme truth. That you are, that am I, and that is all.
Very beautiful. So for the articles used in worship, he says, what really is worship is jnana, is abhyasa. Yeah? Jnana here is wisdom. That self-control that you see is abhyasa. And the perception of the self. Yeah? Perception of the self again is your bhava towards the God, your devotion, your bhakti. Yeah? So jnana, abhyasa, and bhakti. Yeah? Out of them, he says, what is foremost? Your bhakti, your devotion, your perception of the self. Yeah, when I see that same consciousness that exists here also exists in this idol or in this guru, yeah, or in the scripture. or that which is pervading everywhere. That is the perception of the self. That is the true meaning of bhakti. Bhakti does not mean worshipping an object and doing puja. That is not bhakti. Recognizing the same consciousness that is here, is there, is there, is there, is everywhere. This recognition, this perception of the self everywhere is true bhakti. And this is the foremost, the most important, in any worship. The self alone is Lord Shiva, who is fit to be worshipped at all times with the flowers of wisdom. So jnana is the real flower. You put all this fruit, flower, incense and all. It all has a meaning. But people forgot the real meaning, that it is my jnana, it is my abhyasa, it is my bhakti or my perception of the self everywhere. They forgot the real meaning of worship and they got stuck to the external ritual which did not make any sense. So recognize the real symbolism and hold on to that meaning. The external ritual does not really have the meaning. It's just a child's play, so that the little child understands the meaning. Someday a child has to grow up, right? When you grow up, you drop your toys. Like that only you can drop that child's play and hold on to the real meaning. Then only have you really grown up. Then only are you really mature. Clear? Indeed, only the infinite consciousness or Chidakasha, which alone exists even after the cosmic dissolution, exists even now, utterly devoid of objectivity. So basically, in the creation, the creation comes up like a wave, it exists for a while, and there is dissolution of this physical objective creation. But in what does it come up? In what does it exist, and where does it dissolve into? That container itself is the consciousness. That consciousness was in the beginning, it is now, and it will be after the dissolution. Where will that container go? It is. Yes, that container of this entire creation drama, that container itself is Brahman consciousness. That is Chiddakasha. It was, it is, and will always be. And it is devoid of objectivity, because objectivity is only that which belongs to this little creation that came up as a wave, existed for a while and dissolved. So objectivity belongs only to this level. That consciousness, that Chiddakasha, which is all pervading, is devoid of objectivity. All these mountains, the whole world, the firmament is the sky or the so-called heavens, the self, the jiva or the individuality, and all the elements of which the world is constituted, all these are not but pure consciousness. All this is consciousness. Within consciousness, objects have come up and they will dissolve. Before the so-called creation, when only this pure consciousness existed, where were all these heaven, etc., space, akasha, supreme or infinite space, paramakasham, or absolute space, brahma akasham, or the creation or consciousness? Where was all this? This all is just a creation of the mind, just like in a dream. In a dream, a person is real. What is happening in the dream is real. The people in the dream are real. You might be doing absolutely nonsense activities, and you might have a weird kind of a physical body with one wing on one side and one big antenna on the other side, and you might have eyes like a frog in your dream, and everything seems real. Yeah, it'll be the weirdest thing, but it seems so real, right? Like that only he's saying, all this akasham, your paramakasham, all these heavens, mountains, people, everything is just like a part of a dream. It is not real. Yeah. The only thing which connects the dream to your waking state when you wake up in the morning is you, right? That's it. There is no other connection between those two worlds. Yeah, like that only, the only connection between this unreal creation in our own minds and the pure Chidakasha is the consciousness itself. That is the underlying base of existence. Yeah, the pure consciousness. So he says, where were all these heavens, space, supreme infinite space, absolute space, creation, consciousness? They are just mere words, and they indicate the same truth even as synonyms do. Even as the duality experienced in dream is illusory, the duality implied in the creation of the world is illusory. Clear? Even as the objects seem to exist and function in the inner world of consciousness in a dream, objects seem to exist and function in the outer world of consciousness during the wakeful state. Nothing really happens in both these states. Even as consciousness alone is the reality in the dream state, consciousness alone is the substance in the wakeful state too. Here I explained this, the same thing that I told you, that what is the connection between your dream and your waking state is just you. Like that only, this creation, he's saying, is a dream. And when we wake up on the other side, there is no creation. It is just consciousness. So the connecting stratum for both this unreal and real is the consciousness itself. Clear? Even as consciousness alone is the reality in the dream state, consciousness alone is the substance in the wakeful state too. That is the Lord. That is the supreme truth. That you are. That am I. And that is all. Yeah. So basically he's saying the Brahman consciousness is the Lord. If you need to worship something, you need to worship the Brahman consciousness. Yes, because that is all that really exists. Even your so-called devas who are fulfilling your little wishes, they are also finally Brahman consciousness. They don't have the power to do it without the Brahman consciousness. So that is why raise your level of worship higher. Yeah? He gets a little strong in his words on the next page. Yeah? So let's go ahead and read that. Who's going to read to page 251?
Okay. The Lord continued, the worship of that Lord is true worship, and by that worship one attains everything. He is undivided and indivisible, non-dual and neither fashioned nor created by activity. He is not attained by external efforts. His adoration is the fountain source of joy. The external worship of a form is prescribed only for those whose intelligence has not been awakened and who are immature like little boys. When one does not have self-control, etc., he uses flowers in worship. Such worship is futile.
even as adoring the self in an external form is futile. However, these immature devotees derive satisfaction by worshipping an object created by themselves. They may even earn worthless rewards from such worship.
Yeah. So he's a little sharp here. Yeah. So he's also direct. Yeah. He's telling you the truth as it is. Yeah. Without mixing any honey, any sugar, yeah, anything in it. It is bitter. Truth is bitter for the people, he says, who are immature. So let's read it again. The worship of that Lord is true worship, and by that worship one attains everything. Which worship is he talking about? Worshipping the consciousness, the Brahman consciousness. He is undivided and indivisible, non-dual, and neither fashioned nor created by activity. He is not attained by external efforts. His adoration is the fountain source of joy. Who is undivided? The Brahman consciousness is undivided. Yeah? It is indivisible. You cannot divide it only. Just like this space, how much ever we try to divide it, I cannot call this space in Chicago as separate from that space in Cincinnati or that space in Texas. It's not separate space. You cannot divide it. Yeah? Like that only, Brahman consciousness is indivisible, cannot be divided. So it is non-dual. That which cannot be divided has to be non-dual. Yeah? It is not fashioned or created by activity. Why is he saying these things? Because we create, no? A Hindu says, this is my God, I create a form like this. A Muslim says, this is the form I want. Yeah? So we create duality, we divide ourselves, yeah? We fashion it according to our own whims and fancies. Yeah? That is why he's using these words. He's not attained by external efforts. Yeah? External efforts here is puja and going for pilgrimages, climbing up mountains and thinking God will be pleased with me and give me this, or an external effort like fasting. I'm going to fast and then God is going to give me this. Yeah? Brahman consciousness cannot be attained by fasting and pilgrimages and doing all those rituals. It's not possible. Yeah? Who can be pleased by these small things? The devas, those energies. Yeah? They can bestow things on you. They can become happy. But those are very finite things. Yes? You will not be able to reach the infinite by these small little measures. The external worship of a form is prescribed only for those whose intelligence has not been awakened. What intelligence? Is he talking about your IQ? No, your IQ might be super high. You might be a genius. What intelligence is this? Yeah?
Spiritual quotient.
Spiritual quotient. Good one. Yeah? Where you recognize the reality of life. Yeah? Where you mature as an individual. Not in external material acquisitions, not success in external affairs, but where individually my inner strength, my inner growth, yeah, that inner spirituality is my priority. Only such a person will mature, and he's called intelligent. So this intelligence is the one who is a jnani. Yeah? Not jnani in architecture and engineering and medicine. Yes, not the external things. But a jnani in his own swabhava jnana. He is intelligent. We are talking about that intelligence. So think about lots of people around you. Yeah, they must be very successful in life. Yeah, materially, they must be high up there. But still, spiritually, such people might not be intelligent. Yeah? They must have come in the boards. They must be toppers of the class. Yes, but they are still not intelligent according to Vasistha. Yes, according to Vasistha, somebody whose inner light has been lit by his own Swabhava Jnana, by his own maturity, he is awakened and he is intelligent. So homework number 1 for you. Are you intelligent in the definition of Vasistha? Ask yourself. Huh? So the external worship of a form is prescribed only for those whose intelligence has not been awakened and who are immature like little boys. Part 2 of the question, are you like a little boy or a little girl? When one does not have self-control, etc., he uses flowers in worship. Such worship is futile. Even as adoring the self in an external form is futile. Yeah. So that does not mean from tomorrow morning you don't do your regular puja, okay? I warned you, you cannot impose this on yourself. It has to naturally happen, no? That intelligence also happens naturally. Yes, let it happen naturally. Just understand that, I have to raise myself to a higher level, a higher awareness. Clear? Yeah? Let's not indulge in futile exercises anymore, as much as possible. But again, if an internal dvandva begins, okay, go back to it. Yes? And I'll warn you, on the spiritual path, a dvandva is mandatory. You have to meet that dvandva. That inner war must happen, where you are really fighting with the way you were in the past and the way spirituality or your awakening is moving you to the future. So this struggle will continue for some time. And it's only a phase, okay? You have to be very strong during this phase, which means that a mandatory requirement of successfully going through this phase is that you will have to let go of some things of the past. Some aspects of the past will either drop away naturally, or they will be something you will just become dispassionate about, or they'll be taken away from you, because this is a one-way street. Yeah, spiritual growth is just one way. There is no looking back. So it depends on you whether you want to walk at the speed of an ant, or you really want to run fast like a human, or you want to go at jet speed. Totally depends on you. Yes? But I'm telling you, I'm just warning you, if you walk at the speed of an ant, that transition phase, the pain of that is longer, because you're really walking slow. Yeah? So the faster you accept and drop, let go, just be with whatever is happening to me naturally. Naturally, I'm becoming dispassionate. Naturally, I'm growing away from this and that. Accept it quickly and move on. The more you keep struggling, the more that phase, of burning will last longer. And you don't want that to last longer. You want to move on. Yeah? But this phase is a compulsory phase. There is nobody who can get onto the other side without walking through this fire. So we spoke about it a little over the weekend, yeah, where does happen. Yeah, a dispassion happens towards socializing, towards people, towards normal things that I used to do. Like that only it will start happening towards your puja and the rituals that you were doing, maybe the fasts you were keeping. Yeah, there will be a dvandva period. Go through it, go through it. Just go through that and come on to the other side. Yes.
This paragraph is like a bullseye. So directly take that.
Yes.
So like if you worship idols, it's like playing with toys.
Yeah.
You make your own toy and you're playing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So he's very direct.
Amazing. Yeah.
And see, very few people reach the book so far, no? If you reach this book so far, it means that there has been a long journey that you have completed. You have reached a certain stage where Vasistha is now taking you higher. Yeah, just have that courage to walk now. Yeah, if you have the courage, shun all the old, the past. Yeah, a new you has begun. Be ready to move ahead with that new you, a new I. Yes. There might be again the same warning. There will be a burning phase. Just go through that phase, huh? And I'm there, just a phone call away. Yeah.
Now you get a lot of phone calls.
That's fine, that's fine. When one does not have self-control, etc., he uses flowers in worship. Such worship is futile, even as adoring the self in an external form is futile. Yeah? What does he mean by self-control? Yeah? Abhyasa, vairagya. When somebody is not ready to walk the path on his own, yeah, when he is not ready to do his own internal effort, he is then relying on, oh, somebody will bless me, oh, I'll give you flowers, you give me this in return. You know, that trading with God. This happens only when inside I don't have that sense of, integrity, sense of security, that the consciousness that is all pervading is also here. Who am I really praying to? Yeah, that understanding has not yet developed. Yeah, it is only futile to give flowers outside. Yeah, really, the flower should be my own wisdom, my own swabhava jnana. Yes. Such worship is futile, even as adoring the self in an external form is futile. So self is that, Purusha is that consciousness within me. Yes, it's no use trying to see it outside, because if I'm trying to see it outside, I have still not come to that level of intelligence where I can recognize the same consciousness here and here. I'm still stuck outside. I'm still keeping a distance between God and me, which means there is a you that I bows down to. Duality, Dvaitam. Right? That I and you is there. Yes? When the I and you merge, when there is the same consciousness here and outside, then I will not look outside anymore. Yes, very naturally the outside external forms will drop off, because I have recognized that consciousness inside. Yeah? There is no more I and you. There is no more Dvaitam. It is all one. And when it becomes one, it is Advaitam. Yeah? I have recognized it. I have reached that level of intelligence where Vasistha needs me to be here. Yeah? And then I can walk further on this path. Clear? So don't take this very personally and start beating yourself today, huh? Just introspect what is happening. Why am I still stuck in Dvaitam if I am still stuck in ritualistic worship? Yeah. What is it? What is my obstacle that is not letting me reach Advait? Homework number 2. Why am I still stuck in Dvaitam? Everybody's reasoning could be different. Your own self-introspection will be able to give you the answer.
It's a habit of long time.
That could be an answer. True. Yeah. So then part 2.
Brushing your teeth, it just became a habit part.
Yes, yes. Now part 2 to that question. How can I drop it and move towards Advait? Now you work on yourself. This is Aruna Auntie's answer. Somebody else's answer might be something else. How can I work towards moving towards Advaitam and dropping this Dvaitam bhava that is there in me? How? Clear? We'll move ahead. However, these immature devotees derive satisfaction by worshipping an object created by themselves. They may even earn worthless rewards from such worship. Yeah, so he calls money, house, or whatever. God gave you, or Devas gave you a child because you kept so many Devi Kavrat, or you got whatever. Lakshmi, Goddess Lakshmi gave you lots of money on Diwali. And whatever these small things that you got, he says these are worthless. Absolutely worthless rewards. And you got them by worshipping these, lower forms. So he's saying, you are deriving satisfaction from a lower level by something that you have created by yourself. Yeah, this has a hidden meaning. How is the lokas in the middle created? Kinnaras, Gandharvas, Devas. What is that key? What is it? Why are they stuck there? Why are they neither humans nor are they liberated? Why haven't they moved on to the consciousness?
They have not completely let go
Of ragas and
Representations.
there is still craving, there is still aversion. Yes? So this middle level of worlds are created out of your own craving and aversion. When you are stuck in ragas and dveshas, yeah, but you've really worked hard, so then you might, go higher and go to the other side where you don't have to come back as a human again, but you've still not reached complete moksha, complete liberation, because you're still stuck in some ragas and dveshas. So then you get stuck in the middle world. So it's finally created by me only, no? By my raga and dvesha, no? So finally I am worshipping the devas who are created by me only. Are you seeing this? That is the hidden meaning here. Yeah? These immature devotees derive satisfaction by worshipping an object created by themselves. Yeah? They may even earn worthless rewards from such worship. Yeah? How? Because future is generated by my own raga or dvesha. My only raga and dvesha is like a seed which I threw out. Yeah? That seed in its time is going to mature and sprout. So I will get the reward finally. Yes? Are you seeing this? So I only create this middle level of devas. I only pray to them because I'm praying, I'm so stuck onto my raga and dvesha, I'm throwing out those seeds, and those seeds will one day mature and sprout, and I get the reward back thinking, oh great, God has given it to me. God gave it to you. You did it to yourself. Future generation happens in the mind. It is the mind stuff. Future creation happens in the mind. It's the mind stuff. I create my own future through this agami seeds throwing. Yeah? When you raise yourself to a higher level, you will see there is no difference between the human realm, this devas and kinnaras, gandharva realm, yeah, and the higher consciousness realm. It is all one. You're just raising yourself to an eagle's eye view and looking down on these all worlds. Yeah? So that's where you see, oh, here only I threw the seed and here only it sprouted. For me it looked like it's come from somewhere else. Or it's come because of my external efforts of puja and fasting and going on a pilgrimage. It is all futile. Very clear? Yeah. So let's read ahead now.
I shall now describe to you the mode of worship appropriate to enlightened people like you. The Lord fit to be worshipped is indeed the one who upholds the entire creation, who is beyond thought and description, who is beyond the concepts of even the all and the collectively totality. He alone is referred to as God, who is undivided and indivisible by space and time, whose light illuminates all the objects, who is pure and absolute consciousness. He is that intelligence which is beyond all its parts, which is hidden in all that is, which is a being in all that is, and which robs all that is of their being, that is, which veils the truth. This Brahman is in the middle of being and non-being. It is God, and the truth is that indicated as Om. It exists everywhere, like the essence in a plant. The pure consciousness which is in you, in me, in all the gods and goddesses alone is God, Holy One. Even the other gods endowed with the forms are indeed nothing but the pure consciousness. The entire universe is pure consciousness. That is God. That all I am. Everything is attained from and through Him. The God is not distant from anyone, O Holy One, nor is it difficult to attain. He is forever seated in the body and is everywhere like space. He does everything. He eats, He holds everything together. He goes, He breathes. He knows every limb of the body. He is the light in which all these limbs function and in which all the diverse activities take place. He dwells in the cave of one's own heart. He transcends the mind and the five senses of cognition. Therefore, He cannot be comprehended or described by them. 8. For the purpose of instruction is indicated as consciousness. Hence, though it appears as though He does not everything, He does everything, He does nothing. That conscious is pure and seamlessly engage itself in the activities of the world, to the same extent as the spring does in the flowering of the trees.
Yeah. So now he's telling you the proper method of worship that somebody who has risen to this intelligent level should be using. Yeah. So he says, I shall now describe to you the mode of worship appropriate to enlightened people like you. The Lord fit to be worshipped is indeed the one who upholds the entire creation. What upholds the entire creation? That consciousness in which this creation came up, it plays for a while and it goes. That consciousness, that Brahman consciousness upholds the entire creation. Yeah? That consciousness is to be worshipped. Who is beyond thought and description. How much ever I am describing to you this big bowl of consciousness, still I cannot do justice to it. Yeah? So he's saying it is beyond thought, beyond description. Is beyond the concepts of even the all. This all that I'm talking about, this collective totality that I'm explaining to you. He's even beyond this. Words cannot do justice is the meaning of this sentence. He alone is referred to as God, who is undivided and indivisible by space and time, whose light illumines all the objects, who is pure and absolute consciousness. He is that intelligence which is beyond all its parts, which is hidden in all that is, which is the being in all that is, and which robs all that is of their being. So lovely. Yeah? So he's saying that this Brahman consciousness itself has created Maya. Maya is that veil that does not allow me to see the Brahman consciousness. So Brahman consciousness is only not allowing me to see Brahman consciousness. And who is this me? Who is I? I am the Brahman consciousness. So the Brahman consciousness cannot see the Brahman consciousness because of the Brahman consciousness. Awesome, no? Yeah. What a Maya Jal it is. Yeah. So we'll read that line again. He is that intelligence which is beyond all its parts, which is hidden in all that is. So what is hidden in all? The truth, the reality. Yeah? The as is hidden in all. Which is the being in all that is. Yeah? The Brahman consciousness is in all. And which robs all that is of their being. Yeah? So this is the Maya. That means which veils the truth. This Brahman is in the middle of being and non-being. Yeah? Basically does not allow me to see the truth. Yeah? So it is between the being and the non-being. Yeah? The Maya is in between being and non-being. It is God, and the truth that is indicated as Om. Why Om again? It is the sound of creation. Yes? Creation is not just the objects, not the planets. When you go out into outer space, probably you're lost in the vacuum where there is nothingness. Yes? In that vacuum also there is this sound which resonates with the vibration of Om. Yes? And you don't really have to go into outer space to experience it. You can, in your deepest meditation, experience this resonance of Om. It exists everywhere, like the essence in a plant. That pure consciousness which is in you, in me, and in all the gods and goddesses alone is God. Yeah, so the gods and goddesses here in the middle is the Devaloka. Yeah, and alone is God, where he says, there he is mentioning Brahman consciousness, the supreme God, if you want to call him. So that pure consciousness which is in you, in me, in all these devas, in all these lokas, is Brahman consciousness, is God. Holy One, even the other gods endowed with form are indeed nothing but that pure consciousness. So he's saying the devas are also just pure consciousness. The entire universe is pure consciousness. That is God. That all I am. Everything is attained from and through him. That God is not distant from anyone. Yeah. So now your next question is then, how do I worship this consciousness which is everywhere? Yeah. So here is the real answer. This is the sutra, the sentence in bold. That God is not distant from anyone, O Holy One, nor is he difficult to attain. He is forever seated in the body and he is everywhere like space. Yeah. So the Brahman consciousness is not far away from you. You don't have to do a ritual or a puja or take the diya around anything. Yeah, you don't have to do a physical ritual because he's here and in this space around. Yeah, he's everywhere. He does everything. He eats. He holds everything together. He goes. He breathes. He knows every limb of the body. He is the light in which all these limbs function and in which all the diverse activities take place. He dwells in the cave of one's own heart. He transcends the mind and the five senses of cognition. Therefore, he cannot be comprehended or described by them. Yeah, so he's in this only body. He is only eating. He is only speaking. He is only doing everything. Yeah, he is only breathing. Yeah, he is only in these five senses of touch, taste, smell, sight, and sound. So if he is only in these, how can these five comprehend him? Can your eye see your eye? No, na? Yes? Just like that, these five senses are incapable of comprehending the Brahman consciousness because they themselves are the Brahman consciousness. Got it? Yet for the purpose of instruction, he is indicated as consciousness. Yeah, so that consciousness is just kind of adjustment we are doing, compromise. Yeah, words cannot do justice, but still, just to convey it, we use the word consciousness for him, yeah, or for it. Hence, though it appears as though he does everything, he does nothing. Yeah, there is no doership. Just like this space, it is everywhere. Yeah, inside every little object that is working. Inside the lawnmower, there is space, but still the space is not mowing the lawn. Yeah, inside your car, there is space. Still the space is not running the car. Yeah, like that only, that space is inside this body, but that space is not running this body. Yeah, like that only, the Brahman consciousness is in everything and in every little object. Yeah, still it does nothing. There is no I, there is no doership. Space does not say I the space. Like that only, there is no doership in the Brahman consciousness. That consciousness is pure and seemingly engages itself in the activities of the world to the same extent as the spring does in the flowering of trees. Yeah? What did the spring do? Nothing, no? The season doesn't do anything, it just comes and it goes. But still, the flowers blossom. Just because it is spring. Like that only. The Brahman consciousness is compared to the spring. It is. Because of it, everything is. But still, it does nothing. Clear? I think these 2 pages were quite a blow.
So in this one, he still didn't explain the method. He described what is Lord and he described what not to do. But I didn't see where he says what to do.
That's what he's saying. To not do anything is what you need
Do
to
nothing.
do. Because till the time I worship something else, there will be duality. Understand this very clearly. There is no need of duality. No I, no you. Just be. Just being is worship enough. Yeah? There is really nothing to do. Yeah? But the mind is so uncomfortable with not doing. Are you seeing this? The mind is looking for something to do. No. There has to be an activity I want to do. Yeah? Same thing happened on the weekend, no? The mind didn't want to do nothing. The not doing was really bothering the mind. But that is the essence. Yeah? Not doing. There is really nothing to do. Remember Janaka saying this? I have nothing to do.
Guruji also says, relax.
Yes,
Guruji also says, relax.
absolutely. I do nothing, I am nothing. I want nothing. Okay. Clear? 2 pages are very clear. Will you read the next page if I give you as homework? Yeah? It's similar context. Just read 1 page, 252. Because 253 again goes a little deeper. I'll read that with you. Yeah? So read 252, but definitely read it. Okay? Yeah? And I'll see you next week. Those who have still not submitted the exam papers, please submit quickly. Okay? Chalo. Jai Gurudev.